Aye, shepherd's pie, greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the garden for a coffee and a rant. And it will be a bit of a rant today because I've reached a point where I'm going to be affected by what I think is one of the most ridiculous rules in the Philippines. And that rule is it's the Immigration Clearance Certificate, or the BI certificate. Or there's a couple of other things it seems to be called online, but basically it's the documentation that you need to get to leave the Philippines if you have been here for a certain period of time without leaving. Now, I say a certain period of time. Well, I'll tell you why I say that in a minute. This annoys me for two reasons. One, the principle of the thing. Do not like the idea that I am stuck somewhere when I have not committed a crime. Very rare to have a rule like this. I know some countries, like I think Saudi Arabia, if you're working over there, you can't leave without the employer's permission and things. But that's Saudi Arabia. This is the Philippines. Don't think it should be like this. I think if you commit a crime or you do something wrong in a country, then they take your passport away, or they bail you or whatever. This idea that you cannot leave until you've gone through these forms to get this certification bothers me on principle, okay? But, hey, it's the Philippines, not my country. Who am I to moan? But the thing that really bothers me most about it, take the principle aside, it's how confusing and difficult to process the information is. Because I said a period of time, because some of the sites you'll look on will say 6 months. If you've been here for 6 months uninterrupted, you cannot leave without this immigration clearance certificate. Some will say 12 months. Now, I fall into both because I've been here 15 months now, so I 100% need it, regardless of whether the rule is 6 months or 1 year. But I find these things very irritating, because it's one thing to have a ridiculous rule like this, but it's another thing not to make it clear how it works. And this is quite pressing now, because Ellen and I are planning to go to Thailand for a holiday in March, towards the end of March. And she will have to get a clearance certificate as well. Her requirements are different to mine. She has to prove employment, or she has to prove that she's financially stable. She has to provide return plane tickets. She has to provide accommodation information, etc., etc. Now, this is all on the basis of they're cracking down on people trafficking. But that's going to be a problem in itself. I'll talk about my problems first with my visa, or clearance certificate, and then we'll talk about hers. Obviously they're entwined because we're going on holiday together. So if she can't catch the flight, I won't be going on holiday. And if I can't catch the flight, she won't be going on holiday. But there are different requirements for her clearance and for my clearance. Now, what bothers me, as I say, in terms of this documentation, apart from the principle of the thing, is no one seems to have a damn clue how you get this thing. Because if you look online, they will tell you that you must have the clearance. You can only get the clearance certificate if you are in my criteria, okay? See, I'm not going to give anyone an advice on this. I had thought about, making notes and reading it off, but I don't want to give people false information. And the reality is, it doesn't seem you can trust what you read online. An example being, virtually every source that I have read has said you have to go to your local Bureau of Immigration if you are on a tourist visa. It's different for people who are married, apparently. They can get it from the airport. But if you are in my criteria, as in not married, single, on a tourist visa, been here for more than 12 months, you must get it before you go to the airport. You think, okay, well that makes sense. But it's not true. I mentioned before, I had some friends, as a neighbour, I had some friends who went to Thailand for Christmas. Talking to one of them the other day. He'd been here for something like 3 years continuously. That's why he was going away. Not married, on an ACR card, in his 3rd year, got to the airport, went to the immigration place there, and they gave it to him. And that was it. Charged him 2,500 pesos or 2,600 pesos, and he got it. Same with another guy in the party. You know, so all this stuff about getting it online, that you can't get it from the airport, is codswallop. Because I know 2 people who did it just 2 weeks ago. Now, the reason I'm making this video is I was talking to a guy last night in a bar when I was doing a Monday night quiz at Sideways, and he was telling me the same thing. He had left the country last week, he'd been away for 5 days, came back again, same thing, he'd been here 18 months, got it from the airport. No issues. Now, I find that irritating, because why are all these sources online saying you can't do it that way if you can? And this is the trouble with the Philippines. It's like when I, did the video on opening a bank account, when I did a video on how I got a driving licence. These things can only apply to me. You can't go online and say, look, this is the information, this is what you need to do, etc., etc. Because just because that's what the rules are, doesn't mean it's the way it's going to work. I got a couple of comments when I did the opening a bank account. I mean, that's what worked for me, but a couple of comments from people who had gone and tried to do exactly the same thing. They hadn't been allowed to open a bank account, with the driving licence. That's what worked for me, but I would never give people advice on getting a driving licence that way, because it might not work for them. And that's one of the most frustrating things about these places. Someone will say in the comments here, we'll just go to, this is what it says on the Bureau of Immigration or whatever. It doesn't matter what it says. It doesn't matter what it says about the driving licences online. If you go there and they don't want to give you a driving licence because they're in a bad mood or they've got a thing against X, they won't give it to you. Equally, sometimes they'll give it to you when they shouldn't give it to you. Sometimes you could open a bank. It doesn't matter in this country what the rules are. Because how they are interpreted and what actually happens in practice is it's a lottery. It really is a lottery. Now, I don't want to get mine from the airport. I want to get it before. I want to have it in my hand before I go to the airport, because I don't like the idea of getting it there. I think it probably costs more. I'm not sure if the reason they were charged 2,600 is because they charge you more at the airport, or that was the express fee, because the research I've done, if I go to a local bureau and I get it express, it should cost me 1,100. Now, I imagine it's express at the airport, and I believe there's a tax you have to pay as well when you leave, another tax, which is about 1,500, 1,600 pesos. I have to pay it. It's a tourist tax, and I'll have to pay it for Ellen as well. So, because I'm taking away, it's her birthday present, the holiday, so all the costs will fall on me for this one, which is fine. It's a birthday present. But I'm wondering if that 2,600 they were charged at the airport was the express fee for the card plus the tourist tax. I don't know. Or maybe they just charge you twice as much because you're getting it at the airport and they had to pay the tax on as well. I don't know. So I want it in my hand before I go there. Now, it seems to be the only way I can get it in my hand is to go to immigration, the bureau down there, and I think I have to provide plane tickets. I'm not sure about that one, don't quote me on that. But definitely when Ellen goes, she has to provide return plane tickets. So I will have to get the plane tickets in advance. Now, given there's a chance that we might not, because you've got to remember, before people say I'm making a fuss, I had a dispute with my landlord not so long ago, and he suggested that he would make things difficult for me in terms of leaving the country. Now, I have no idea if he did that or not. So, I don't think he did. He shouldn't have done, because situations were resolved, but he's a funny fish, so who knows what he did. And I was talking to a guy not so long ago, a good friend of mine, out one night, and he was telling me how he was blocked from leaving the country because of a dispute he had with his landlady. And he didn't even know he had that dispute, because what had happened, to praise it, he decided to move out of a house. He had contacted the landlord by email or Facebook or something like that, and said, look, I'm leaving, how much do you want me to pay you, etc., etc., to settle things. And he'd left, and the landlord had been away at the time, and he had never heard from her, never got an answer. He chased it up again, never got a reply, so he left it. Then a period of time later, I don't know how much long it was, 6 months or whatever, he went back to the town where he had been living, and he bumped into some of her family members, and they had said, I'm not going to say the guy's name, but they said basically, what happened? We can't believe you left us like that, you didn't pay your bill, something must be wrong. Our mother reported you to immigration, etc., but we just couldn't believe you did that, because you're such a nice guy. And because they knew him, they thought something must be wrong. And he said, no, I told you, I messaged her. And it turned out the account he had messaged her on, she had never seen. So she had blacklisted him. She had made a complaint that there was a debt against him, etc. So he paid the money. He paid it straight away. I say it was a misunderstanding. But if he hadn't bumped into them, he would never have known that he had that issue until he had tried to leave the country, and he wouldn't have been able to leave. And this happens a lot. I mean, I don't know how accurate the information is, but when I was researching this story, I actually did some research for this one. In 2015, 33% of the tourist expats in the Philippines were refused flights out of the country because they didn't have their immigration clearance certificates. Now, don't shoot the messenger. That's a website I'm quoting. Seems a hell of a lot. I mean, that's a third, but that's what it says. So, two things here. There is no way I am going to go to the airport and do it, because if he has done something to me, I don't have time to sort it out. Secondly, as I keep saying to people who are telling me not to worry, because a few of my expat friends are saying, don't worry about it, just do it at the airport. I've done a lot of travelling, in my life, and there are lots of times when planes are late and you have a very quick turnover. I mean, all the flights that we're looking at, we're going via Cebu, going via Manila, you've got like an hour and a half, 2 hours from the flight landing from Dumaguete to catching the next one. Unless we go for a really long one, like a 12-hour delay, or stay overnight or something, which I don't see the point of. So what I'm saying is, if you go with like a 2-hour delay, layover, all that flight has to be is like 45, 50 minutes delay taking off. You're going to struggle to get your immigration certificate to pay that and get on the flight and that. I don't want to be having to worry about that. So I want to get it done before, for obvious reasons. So my intention is to go down there with Ellen in the next few weeks and try and get it sorted. But the problem is I'll have to abort the flights before then, which I'll suck up and see. It's not really a big thing. I think we will be all right. But, I'd like to find out if I've got a problem before I book the flights. But it wouldn't seem that that's good, that's doable. But I say that's small beans. The thing that really bothers me after having been here so long, is I will go to immigration. I will ask their advice, and they're usually very helpful down there. They're nice people, but you just don't know if it's the right advice. It's like anything, you just don't know. You know, if they tell me to get it sorted, to leave it to the airport, then I'll have to leave it to the airport. But it's the kind of country where you can arrive at the airport, you can say, Dumagetti told me this, and it won't cut muster. And it's when you can get this certificate, because again, the research I've done, it seems to be different airports have, different bureaus have different policies. Because this certificate seems it's valid for a month. And what they're trying to avoid is people getting the certificate, committing a crime or doing something in the next few weeks and then flying out of the country. So a lot of them won't let you apply for it, it would seem, like, you know, a week before your flight, or, you know, a couple of days before your flight even. Some place was 3 days, I read. Well, that's just ridiculous. It's just more stress. It's but anyway, it's all small beans really, but to me it's irritating. You look at the grand scale of things, maybe I am just being a whinging pob, but I just can't understand why everything has to be so difficult here in terms of just misinformation everywhere. Now we're coming on to Ellen's problem, because this could potentially be the biggest problem of all, in the sense that we will have to go through certain hoops to get Ellen to be able to come to Thailand with me, in the sense that immigration here can be very forceful, in the sense that they don't let people travel, even when they've got the correct documentation, on the basis that they could be being people trafficked. Now, I think we'll be all right on this score, because I'm quite confident if we've got the documentation, touch wood, rightly or wrongly, and I'm with Ellen at the airport, I will kick up a stink. I will not, you know, I think, you know, she should not have an issue if we're together. Because the reality is we're in a relationship. I can prove we're in a relationship, you know, from the YouTube videos, you know. We talk about our relationship on there all the time, so, and it goes back a period, so, you know, we can prove that we're in a relationship. We will have crossed all the dots, you know. She will have funds, she will have accommodation booked, we've got return flights, you know. If they question why, then I want to know what the hell is their basis for that. I mean, what can you possibly, we have filled all the boxes, what hunch, what suspicion can you have, you know, not to allow her that I'm people trafficking her? I mean, what, you know, and obviously in a polite way, I'm not going to say, but I'm just saying, I don't see how they can do it, but they might. I might be overconfident, and we could come unstuck that way. But this is one of the reasons why I'm making the video, because it can be a real problem to some people, and I didn't realise this until the last couple of months, when I started talking to expat friends over here, when I was telling them that I was going to take Ellen to Thailand, because a few of them said straight away, be careful, do not fly out of Manila, because Manila apparently, don't know if this is true or not, are much tighter on the rules than other airports, and Manila are far more likely not to let the Filipino leave the country. This is all anecdotal. However, I did read a magazine article online. It was basically complaining that Filipinos were furious because so many were being denied the opportunity to leave the country because they hadn't satisfied the customs people that their trip was for work, etc. Even though these people had all the correct documentation, even though they had been able to go down to, they'd had to prove that they had employment and all this with the local Bureau of Immigrations, even though they'd done everything, they still got turned away on the flights because immigration weren't happy in Manila. Now, talking to expats, one of the reasons I'm making this video now is I don't think, touch wood, it will be a problem Ellen and I going together. But if I was in Thailand and I was suggesting that she came to visit me, the advice seems to be there's a very good chance she would not be able to get on that flight. They know several stories of friends it's happened to. They're in another country, they've paid for the girlfriend's ticket to come over, she's proven the finances and all that, she has got on the plane by herself, immigration have just turned around and said, no, you're not going, we don't believe your story, or we have to take the view for your own safeguarding that you could be people traveling, and they haven't let them go. And that has happened to several people I know, or friends of people I know. It literally happened, no debate about this. But the constant seems to be that they were by themselves. So that's food for thought. Now, one other thing that does seem to be a key is stamp. Once you've got a stamp and you have left the country, again, this is anecdotal, this is the Filipino, then theoretically it shouldn't be an issue after that point. Now, a good friend of mine, guy I was telling you about, who had the landlord issue, he's going away soon. He would love to go to Thailand with his girlfriend, etc., but he's decided to go to Hong Kong with her first. Just because, I hope he doesn't mind me talking about him, I haven't named him, because he wants to get a stamp in the visa and he can get to Hong Kong from the Philippines without going through Manila. So they're going to go there just for the purpose of getting out of the country without going to Manila to get a stamp. So if they do have to fly from Manila in the future, they'll already have that first stamp and it should be less of an issue. Now, you know, yeah, I think it's nuts that you have to do that. I'm not saying he's right, or he's being over. I think he's being very prudent. I think he's being sensible. If it worries him that much, that's what he should do. But I just think it's a crazy situation to have to be like this, in the sense that have this ridiculous rule in the first place, but then have so much confusion about who it applies to, when it applies, how you can do it. I mean, what is the point of having sites online, immigration sites, saying you can only do it at Bureau of Immigration, if the reality is you could do it at the airport, and vice versa? You know, it's nuts. And the fees. I mean, I do get the general impression, as I said, I'm a bit of a worrier, in the sense that things like this bother me, because I like, you know, to tick all the dots, cross all the T's. I like to know what the score is. But equally, I'm also, part of me, I'm like, sod it, if I can't go, if I miss the flight, so what, you know, I'm not going to worry about this. So you caught me on a worrying day. Tomorrow I'll be like, what will be, que sera, sera. If we miss the flights, we miss the flights, so what, you know. But I just don't think it should be like that, and I don't like the idea. I mean, if it's right that you can't get it at the airport, and I suspect that's not right, because I think what they're basically saying is, if my mother or someone, God forbid, had a terrible accident, you know, in the UK tomorrow, they're like, you know, on their deathbed, I cannot go back. I will not be able to jump on a flight, get back within, like, you know, 24, 36 hours, because I will have to go to immigration first. I will have to do this, I will have to do that, because I can't get it at the airport. Well, that's nuts. That's unacceptable to me, you know. But it would appear, according to the sites online, that is the case. But having spoken to people who've been away recently, I am getting the general consensus now that it is just money making. It is just money making. You know, it's like, you know, you can get it at the airport, they'll just charge you more for it. And the people seem to say as well that there's not much queuing, because that's my worry, is to have a quick turnover, you know, get there, flight's late, we've only got 30 minutes to get on the plane, and you've got to queue the immigration to get this thing sorted out. But hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully I will get it sorted out when I go down to immigration in a couple of weeks' time. I'll take Ellen down with me, we'll bring all the documentation, we'll ask them their advice on what to do. I've got a bit of a cold, if I'm sounding funny. Always sick these days in the Philippines, and their advice will be good. But as I say, it's the only country I've ever been to where you just don't know. You just don't know. You could be told something, you could be told 100% this is what you do, And then you go to another place and they'll say, no, that's not it. Doesn't matter what you were told there, you know. So I will not be happy until I have the documentation in my hand, preferably from Dumagetti. But even when I've got that, when we get on that flight and we land in Manila, it will be going through my mind. Is this documentation okay? Are they going to want something else? You know, is it going to work? You know, it's like, hey, that's the beauty of the Philippines. More fun in the Philippines, as they say. Not overly worried about it, really. The old roosters are off now. I don't think Ellen's that worried. Well, Ellen seems to be more worried about it than me, and I'm not, because we'll fulfil the criteria. She's got a job, she's got something to come back to. We got return flights. We're in a relationship, you know. The accommodation that we booked, we'll have proof of that. There should definitely be no issue there. But you should know this if you're in a long distance relationship. I would certainly really heavily counsel against planning to fly your girlfriend to meet you out the country by herself if you're in an LDR. You know, it might seem appealing to meet up in Thailand or something like that, but from what I've been told talking to people, it's very dangerous. Very, very high chance that she will not be allowed to board the flight. And I'll go off on a little tangent now. The bureaucracy annoys me here, because I mentioned it before. I had a friend in Migo, a friend over in Sikihor, and he got a job working as an overseas worker in Czech Republic. He's there now, and the journeys he had to do. He had to fly to Cebu. He had to get the ferry over to Cebu, rather. He had to get this sign, that. He was constantly going. He had to make 2 or 3 trips to different immigration places to get, you know, the paperwork. And he's a guy who was a barman. You know, he'd only been earning 400 pesos a day or something like that. You know, so each trip, hotel, you know, it's going to cost him like a week's wages. This is not serving the people, you know, doing it this way. I think it's very unfair to them. I mean, milk us tourists for some money, fine, you know, yeah, do it. You know, you make it easy for us to stay here. I don't object to the tourist tax. I don't object to paying for this thing. I just wish it was just easier to know how it works. But anyway, it is what it is. My nose is getting terrible now. I'm going to have to stop making this video. I've gone on too long anyway. Love to know your views in the comments, but please don't write and say, you know, oh, this is easy, you've got this wrong, just read this information. Because, as I say, I don't trust the information. You can't possibly know. None of us can know. That is the thing about it, because all experiences are different here. You know, just because that was the way it worked for you doesn't mean it's the way it's going to work for me, because it's the Philippines. It's more fun here, but it's pot luck 99% of the time. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, it would be fantastic if you did. But whether you do, whether you don't, whatever you're doing, stay safe, be lucky,